Time to Talk with host Jennifer Graziano of Zion Memorial Chapel and Cox and Graziano Funeral Homes. Jennifer is here to discuss a sensitive subject we all need to talk and think about. Here now is Jennifer Graziano and Time to Talk.
Good morning, Westchester. It's 9 a.m. on Monday, and that means it's time to talk with me, Jen Graziano. I'm a licensed funeral director who oversees my family's funeral homes, Cox and Graziano of both Mamaroneck and Greenwich, and the Zion Memorial Chapel of Westchester. Every Monday, I come to you discussing important topics and sensitive matters that all of us need to pause and reflect upon at some point, and through this show, I hope to provide a platform to do so. If you're joining us this morning on 1460 WVOX, we'll take questions, comments, and calls to 914-636-0110. Good morning in the control room. And welcome back, Facebook Live viewers. It's really great to be back live, doing what I love to do best. And hello to Tim Judge, the man behind the camera. So on the other side of the camera is a face that you've seen many times in the show. Sal, I can't count how many times you've been here, but we keep asking you back because you know your subject. Sal is an elder law attorney with the firm Maker, Fragale Di Costanzo. Offices in both Rye and Yorktown Heights, I believe.
Yes.
So you cover the county wherever you are. Sal can help you. And you have a very honed-in specialty on the field of elder law. And I always say when applying for Medicaid, when looking to do asset preservation, wealth preservation, you need to go to the specialist. You can't just go to the general practice arena. So welcome, Sal.
Thank you, Jen. Good morning.
Good morning to you. One of the reasons I wanted to have you back on is because there are some changes in effect to the New York Medicaid law. Mm-hmm. And Medicaid laws in general, they breed complexity. And with changes in effect, so many people are beginning the application process or contemplating beginning this application process. And there's so much that they should be aware of. So break down for us a little bit when the changes went into effect and what are the key changes that applicants will now face.
I'll be happy to do that. You know, it's the Medicaid planning arena is just riddled with minefields, and a lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people try to do things on their own. Mm-hmm. A lot of people take advice that's faulty from their friends, from their neighbors, from people that have been through it already, and unfortunately from other attorneys. There's a real issue out there today where you use the word specialist. We're not allowed to say that we're specialist under the ethical code, right? You know that. So we're supposed to say we focus in this area.
Yes.
This is what we do on a regular basis. But there are a lot of people out there, a lot of attorneys out there that do not focus on this on a regular basis, but are trying to help their clients and just give out misinformation. Not necessarily meaningfully, but it's incorrect.
And misinformation is such the problem. I mean, again...
That's exactly what it is.
And the thing is, this sneaks up on you because the time to begin the Medicaid planning is not when you need it.
No, absolutely
it's
not.
looking back before. There is the look back period, mm-hmm. which talk a bit about that to listeners and viewers. What is the look back period? How long is that? And has that changed under the new law?
So let's talk about, and you just said it perfectly. It's misinformation. It's
mm-hmm.
not that anybody's doing anything wrong,
right?
But it's misinformation. When people talk about needing long-term care, mm-hmm. whether it's at home or in a nursing home setting, Medicaid is often the payer of last resort, right? A lot of people don't realize that they should be looking towards Medicaid to pay for the cost of this care. A lot of people think that they're not eligible for Medicaid.
Right.
And that's the number one fallacy out there, because if you do your planning correctly, and especially if you do it in advance, then you can render yourself Medicaid eligible, with proper planning. So there's two aspects of Medicaid eligibility. There's nursing home mm-hmm. and there's home care.
Correct.
And the rules are different for both sides of the equation. So for instance, just by way of background, for nursing home purposes, if you were to apply for nursing home Medicaid, there's a 5-year look-back period. What does that mean? A lot of people don't realize what that means. Let's just be very basic for a moment. If you have to go into a nursing home,
right,
and you're looking to apply for Medicaid, and today is the day that you submit a Medicaid application in a nursing home setting, Medicaid will ask for 5 years worth of financial records, mm-hmm. pretty much everything about you for the last 5 years. And if you're married, from your spouse as well, even though your spouse might not be applying for Medicaid,
Correct.
they'll ask for that as well. And they want to see if, number one, you're financially eligible, how much money do you have? And two, have you moved any money out of your name? Have you
To
moved
become
any
eligible.
assets to become
Correct.
eligible? So you can't just move assets out of your name and apply for nursing home Medicaid the next day.
Right.
So that's the look back period. And
So
then
5 years,
5
if you're
years.
looking to go into a nursing
In a nursing
facility, any
facility.
type of skilled care,
That's right. That's right.
institutionalized
That's
setting.
right.
Okay.
So for home care purposes, prior to last Thursday, October
Correct.
1st,
That's where the
key
change
date.
came in. Okay.
The rule was, and this is the old rule, the rule was for home care purposes, you could move your assets out of your name and there is no look back period. So you could apply for Medicaid in a home care setting, right? You need an aide to come into the house to care for your needs. So we can move our assets today and apply tomorrow for home care, and that's the law, right? You know, that was the law. So earlier this year, in Governor Cuomo's budget proposal, which was later then approved, this particular aspect of it, he changed that, and the law is now a 2.5 year look back period for home care purposes.
So 2.5 years. So
30
whereas they
months.
weren't looking at all,
That's right.
now they're going to look 2.5
That's right.
years. And it
that's a
sneaks
really-
up on you,
it
you know,
sneaks up on you. It's
again.
a really big deal.
Yeah,
It's a really
yeah.
big deal because, you know, most people want to stay at home. We try to keep people at home as long as possible. You know, consider your elderly couple that, you know, maybe they own a house, maybe they have $100,000 in the bank, and they're living off of Social Security and pension. Maybe the wife never worked. Maybe the husband was a blue collar person that now receives a pension, because pensions are somewhat extinct now in other areas of practice, and that's how they're living. And they didn't do any planning in advance. But under the old law, if somebody got sick, first we could move assets between spouses. That's a planning technique. But let's say there was no spouse. We could just take those assets and move them to the kids.
Mm-hmm.
That $100,000 that they worked their whole life to save, and that's their nest egg, and that's their security blanket. Now, under the new law, we're going to lose a lot of that money.
You have to try to get into the rationale of the state. I mean, I guess they noticed that there was more of a movement towards home care, Medicaid applications, and, you know, hence the reason now they put this, they added this layer.
New York State is in a financial predicament that, we all know about.
You think?
Yeah.
Hey, hold that thought, because we have a caller on the line.
Sure.
Go ahead.
It's Chris.
Hi, Chris. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Just a question. How does the gifting law play into the look-back period? You know, you're allowed to gift a certain amount of money every year to any person. Does that come into play with the look-back?
You know, Chris, that's an excellent question, and I'm kind of glad that you asked that question. I'm going to direct everybody to my website.
I did something right today.
You're off to a good start on Monday,
it's
Chris.
Monday morning. I wrote about this a bunch of times. It's on my website, I think. I wouldn't profess to tell you how to find it on my website, but I've written a bunch of blogs. This is a very common question, and it's one of the Jen and I started this session by talking about misinformation. I'm an accountant as well as an elder law estate planning attorney. Under the Internal Revenue Code, you're allowed to gift $15,000 a year to as many people as you want. You can open up the phone book and you can give away $15,000 to as many people as you want. My last name starts with a D when you get there.
And a married couple could give $30,000.
Yeah, but it's individually based, right?
Of joint assets.
That's right.
Okay.
Now, that Medicaid laws and IRS laws, tax laws they don't mesh, right? The Medicaid law says if you give away $1, and I'm really being somewhat facetious now, $1 is not going to really make or break you, but if you give away that same $15,000, Medicaid is looking back and they're going to say you transferred your assets. There is no such exemption for Medicaid purposes. So it's a very good question. It's an important aspect of what we do.
Absolutely.
Because I get people that come into the office who actually may have done planning with an elder law attorney. Maybe they've set up a trust. Mm-hmm. Maybe they've actually moved assets. But they've been giving their 6 grandchildren $15,000 a year for the last 10 years because
Right.
they thought that they were allowed to do that. And you are allowed to do that
For
for
tax purposes, but not for
Medicaid purposes. So now all of a sudden we've got this huge gift that was made over the last 5 years that we've got to backtrack. I also tell you that most people that give away, it's kind of interesting. I do a lot of tax returns. People come in every year, and I see that on the papers that they give me that they gave away $15,000. Forget about Medicaid for a moment. A lot of people don't realize what it really means under the tax code to give away the $15,000 or what the exemption actually means. The exemption is above and beyond your lifetime exclusion. So right now, your federal lifetime exclusion for estate and gift tax purposes, in other words, you could die with this amount of money or you can gift it during your lifetime, is over $11 million. So the $15,000 gift tax exemption actually doesn't come into play until you've actually given away $11 million. It doesn't matter.
Right.
If you have an $11 million estate, then it matters. But if you have anything below that, you could give away your entire estate and pay no gift tax.
Just a question. Let's say someone gives away all their money by gifting, and they have no money. Okay, how do they recover that money to pay for the for the nursing home?
It's another excellent question, which is, and I don't think that's what Jen and I are going to get into today. But of course, I'll come back and do it again. That's why we never recommend that parents or grandparents give away their assets directly to their children. We often use trust.
The trust vehicle.
Because there's methods that we can implement to get that money back. I just had this case on Thursday where parents sold their house, which I'm not sure that was smart, and that's another discussion for another day, but they sold their house and they took the proceeds and gave it to their kids. And now the parents have to go into the father is in a nursing home. And they came to me to try to render him eligible for Medicaid. I said, okay, let's return the money that was gifted. And they all looked at me and said, there's no way we could do that. One person bought their own house. Another person paid their real estate taxes and things like that. There was no money left to get back.
So I think the moral of the story is to start this early.
The gifting. If you put the money into so you're allowed to give. So if you gift into a trust, that protects the money.
If the trust is drafted properly, that's a really big issue. And I'm sorry to sound like I'm bashing other people out there, but I'm not. The reality is, if this trust is not drafted the right way, and I saw this just last week where another attorney drafted one of these trusts for somebody, they didn't put all the bells and whistles and the mechanisms in the trust, one of them being the power to change beneficiaries, to be able to revoke the trust, et cetera, and we had a problem. So it's got to be the right type of trust. It can't just be something that you pull off of a computer software program.
Right.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Very helpful.
Thank you for the call, Chris. I think all of it, begs the question, when do you start this planning, Sal? Because you're in these situations where people, again, it's misinformation, it's kind of incorrect advice, and there's this propensity to want to give things away and take care of your grandchildren and your children, which is noble and generous, but if it's not done the right way,
that's right,
you negate your entire intention of taking care of your family upon your passing.
That's right. I always tell people you have to live your life, right? So people come to me, they're charitably inclined. They want to give money to their kids. They want to pay for college tuition. If you do your planning the right way and you segregate your assets and you say, okay, these assets I'm going to put into a trust, or I'm going to do what Sal recommends, and I'm going to protect those assets. And these assets I'm going to keep in my name. And I understand what the consequences are of keeping those assets in my name. And I also understand what the consequences are of moving those assets out of my name to a charity or to a child or a grandchild. At least you're aware of the situation, right? You're making a fundamental decision as to what to do next. It's the people that don't plan that are blindsided.
Well, sit tight on your wealth of knowledge in this subject. We have another caller on the line.
Dottie.
I'm sorry.
Hello?
Hi,
Hello?
Dottie.
Yes.
Good morning. Thank you for your call. How can we help you?
Good morning. I have a question about the topic you're discussing.
Sure.
What happens if you have, like, your house in your name and your child's name, or bank accounts with your granddaughter on it?
So held jointly? So
yeah.
Okay.
Well, those are a couple of questions that you're asking, Dottie, but generally speaking, the rules regarding joint ownership of assets are different depending on which type of asset it is. But let me start off by telling you, a lot of people come in and they say, I put my daughter on my bank account, therefore it's not my asset. or it's my daughter's asset, or it's half my daughter's, half mine. That's wrong, right? Adding a child to a bank account for protection purposes is largely non-existent. What you're really doing is you're making you might be moving assets to your daughter if she takes those assets out of that account, right?
Okay.
Adding your daughter to the bank account does not change the fact that you are treated as the owner of the bank account for Medicaid purposes.
It's still an asset in your name.
It's still your asset. Your daughter's name on that account, because in fact, just think about the logic behind that. If we ever really wanted to trace the ownership of the assets, who put the assets into the account? You did.
Who started the account?
Who
right?
started the account? Who put the assets? Who contributed the assets? So Medicaid has a rule, unless we can rebut their presumption, but they have a general rule that if somebody else's name is on the bank account, it's still considered to be your asset. Now, I have had cases where that was the case, but we were able to show that the daughter put her paycheck into the account on a regular basis. So we were able to not withdraw, but we were able to back out that money.
You were able to really show the joint nature of it, though,
that's right.
that there were two contributors.
That's right. But there's a very interesting twist to this. There's always in the law, there's always an exception to the rule. So bank accounts are generally treated as yours, Dottie. Mm-hmm. Brokerage account assets, believe it or not, brokerage accounts, they're treated 50-50 if somebody else's name is on that account. So it's unique because you've got to look at the character of the assets and see just exactly what you own. And so there is a little bit of a difference in, a differing rule for brokerage account assets. And I had a case many years ago where we were able to protect a lot of money by arguing that to the Department of Social Services. But generally speaking, you're not looking as a planning technique. You're not looking to add your kids to your accounts.
Okay. Thank you.
That's a great question, though, Dottie. Thank you so much for the call.
All right. Thank you very much.
Have a great day. So, Sal, all of these questions are great questions, but as you can see, we're talking about day-to-day activities of, you have your kids on your account, and we just kind of go through life with this planning that, again, people feel that they're well-intentioned. They're just looking to take care of children and grandchildren, not realizing the problems that can come down the road. So it begs the question, when do you begin this planning?
So it's really never too early to plan because we all have planning needs, right? So you and I might have different, and in some aspects, if there's anybody out there that's listening in the younger generations, it's often more important for you to get in and do your planning because you might have young children, you have minor children. The younger generations tend to have a hodgepodge of assets that really have not been, there's no planning that's been put in place. It could be trust for the kids, it could be beneficiary designations, it could be whatever, avoiding probate. But for the stuff that we're talking about today, you usually see people in their 60s coming into my office. 60s, 70s, 80s, we're drafting these trusts. Obviously, as you get older, the conversation I'm going to have with you is, look, this is what we can do. I'm not going to play God. I have no idea what your needs are going to be. It may or may not work, right? So, it's never too late to plan either.
True. And we always say that when you come on air, that don't feel that if you haven't done anything that you should just continue the course that way. It's not going to hurt to speak to you. I always say, speaking to an elder law attorney, you don't, you go to a cardiologist for a heart issue, not just your general practitioner. So this is the same type of special need.
The elder law attorney has really become the family attorney. When I'm sitting
with,
it is. And I think back to some of the old stories from my grandparents when, in the old days, there used to be like the family attorney that would come to the house and he would notarize a document. And if you had, a contract that had to be signed, he looked at that for you. And if there was a divorce, and he would handle that. And we're not a jack of all trades. We're not multidisciplinary, but the reality is that a lot of the issues that we deal with on a regular basis do run the social gamut.
Yeah,
right?
they do.
And there are issues that come up in a family setting on a regular basis.
And there's also, there's a psychological component to this too, because taking assets out of your name, there's some difficulty in that. And whereas it's noble, it's well-intentioned, but it kind of brings the reality to the forefront that you're getting older and, you're not in control. So there's a lot of interest to balance, but having the conversation sooner rather than later will help mitigate some of this discomfort.
If you choose the right attorney, and again, it doesn't have to be me, but everybody that's listening here should make sure that they choose an elder law attorney. If you choose the right attorney and you have that conversation, a lot of times those fears of control, lack of losing control, they could be distilled. Where I can't tell you that you're not going to give up control, but I can show you all the different things that are present in the plan that should kind of bring you down a notch and say, okay, I can live with that, but you got to be able to have that conversation.
Again, going back to look back periods and when they're going to start the search of your transfers, the difference between 74 and 75 can be huge. I mean, you could have one fall, let's say, or one event to change the course of your health that you've been living well for so long until something happens. And without any, without being foresighted, you could really, again, all that you worked to provide and to preserve could just escheat back to the state. And that's clearly what no one wants. Talk a bit about the cost of long-term health care, though, because I think that when people start to say, well, why would I need Medicaid, or why would I even think about qualifying? Give some examples of numbers of what your clients are looking at for long-term care.
Yeah, so a nursing home right now in our area, generally speaking, is about $15,000 a month. And home care, it depends on what your needs are.
Right.
But if you've got somebody that needs 24/7, that could be $10,000 a month. You figure a good, most of these agencies are probably charging around $23 to $25 an hour. So just let that digest for a moment. Think about that. If you get sick someday, these are the types of costs that you're going to encounter. And the next logical question is, how are you going to pay for it? And so you're either going to pay for it out of your pocket. You're going to have long-term care insurance, which,
there's a lot of fine print to that.
And it should be explored. I'm not discounting long-term care insurance.
Correct.
But for many people, it's too expensive, and or they can't get it for health reasons. So we're not seeing a lot of that today. Medicare is very limited in what it pays for. Medicare, a lot of people say, well, I'm on Medicare. But that doesn't mean anything. It means 100 days in a nursing home setting.
Correct.
So you're left with Medicaid. That's how we get to Medicaid. A lot of people don't realize how we actually get talking about Medicaid. That's how. If you don't have long-term care insurance and you don't do your Medicaid planning with me in advance, you're paying for it out of your pocket. And they say the average stay is 2 to 3 years. And that's probably accurate.
Makes you start thinking. So in terms of Medicaid eligibility, are we talking about a net worth number?
Yeah, it's really, the numbers are really trivial in nature. You've got to divest yourself of almost all of your assets with certain exceptions.
Any significant changes under the new law to eligibility?
No,
so we're talking about more in the home care realm, having a look back period versus not having a look back period, but pretty much same eligibility rules apply.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sal, you mentioned before to one of our callers that you do have a website and you blog frequently on this. You lecture frequently around this. You really have made this your niche of discussing wealth preservation, asset preservation, and Medicaid eligibility. So what is your website that we can share?
The website's very easy to remember. It's Plan Today for Tomorrow.
You really think that's easy to remember?
I think so.
Is it Plan Today, like today spelled out?
All spelled out.
And the 4 F-O-R?
We're not that sophisticated. we don't use gibberish when we
okay,
write
so
out
the full phrase, everyone. Plan today for tomorrow.
All spelled out.
Fully spelled out. And there you can read Sal's blogs, his articles, and he does frequent lectures in the community. He does fireside chats up at his Northern Westchester office.
We've been doing Facebook Live every 2 weeks.
Live, yes. Every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And people can sign up, Sal? You send out they could just watch you on Facebook, or do you do anything with Zoom meetings that people can get
Facebook.
a link? Just Facebook Live.
Yeah, Facebook.
What is your, on Facebook, what is your page name?
I think it's Plan Today for Tomorrow.
You think it's that?
/ I have no idea, Jen.
So we're going to look that up here. But again, in all seriousness, it's a good idea to call. I mean, we had great callers today, great questions.
Yes, very good
and
questions.
I know you're always very happy to engage and speak with people. I've sent many people to you that, they felt very comfortable. What is the best phone number to reach you?
914-925-1010.
And that's for in either office they can connect you?
We have different numbers, but they all get routed to the same legal assistant.
Okay. So 925-1010. 925. All right. So it is. Wait, is this you? Is this your page?
That's me. I don't know if there's anybody else out there with that.
No, probably not. Plan today for tomorrow. You can find them on Facebook as well. There's this nice little happy family strolling in the park. You'll know you're on the right page. But the moral of the story, everyone, is plan ahead. And it really is a great, all kidding aside, it's a great name because you have to plan today to protect tomorrow.
That's right.
And you have to be prudent. Any upcoming events? Is there a Facebook Live that anybody can jump on in the next 2 weeks?
This Thursday, we're going to be doing a Facebook Live.
Thursday at...
We might have a special guest. I'm not sure about that yet. Otherwise, I'll pick a topic and we'll just do something. And all of my prior Facebook Live episodes are on my website, by the way.
Oh, very true. So you can look at the video library that he has. What time do you do this on Thursdays?
At 2 o'clock.
Thursdays at 2 on Plan Today for Tomorrow on Facebook. Also visit the website plantodayfortomorrow.com and make it a point, folks. You know, it's Monday. We're all motivated. Ask these questions. Do it before it's too late, although it's never too late to do something, but do it the right way.
That's
so,
right.
Sal DiCostanzo, I thank you for your time.
Thanks, Jen.
I know you will be back. And we'll keep doing what we're doing. And your article is actually coming up in the next Coming of Age magazine. Shameless promotion coming out at the end of the month. We'll let people know about that. But thank you so much for your time, Sal.
Good to see you, Ben.
And this is Jen Graziano thanking you for taking the time to listen as we took the time to talk. Have a great day, Westchester. Bye-bye.